host, I think. I'm the host.
Mute.
So Samuel, why do I see everybody? The video option is.
Rabindra, can you hear me?
Yes, I can right now.
Yeah, I've joined.
Super.
It's 19 hours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rabindra Junjunwala. Very warm welcome to my next lockdown conversation, where I bring to you a guest speaker every other weekend. This is the fifth talk that we're getting together for. I hope all of you are taking good care of yourself and have adopted well to the new normal. These have been unprecedented times, and I think we will see it continue for some more time. As before, it's going to be a conversation format. We will start with questions which have been collected over the last several days. And our guest speakers are going to take those questions. They will share their thoughts, and subject to time, we may take some additional questions. We are going to cover a very sensitive but a very important topic today. I am going to, before we start, generate a quick poll to get a sense of the age group of the participants, and also get a sense of what you understand about mental health. So if we can start the poll, please. You will see 3 questions on your screen, and we'll spend a minute and a half. If you just hover your cursor, okay, I see the poll results coming in. There are 3 questions, so please do respond to all 3. It will give the sense to our guests, especially Dr. Shetty, and us, a sense of who we are addressing today. We'll give another minute. Take your time. And just so that you know, we are recording this session as before, and it will be shared on the WhatsApp group. It is also being streamed live on Facebook. It will also be available there. The previous recordings of the other lockdown conversation are also on YouTube and Facebook if you would want to go back and see that. So there's a poll, it's anonymous on the screen. If you can please clock in your questions, answers. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now and share the results. So, Dr. Shetty and Amit, it gives us an idea that majority of the attendees currently, there are about 100 on the Zoom call, currently are between the age of 40 and 50. Close to 60% have said they have experienced some form of anxiety, mood swing, depression, OCD, some mental health disorder. And interestingly, 80% say that they have not consulted any counselor or psychiatrist. So thank you very much. That is very interesting poll results. I'm going to stop sharing that and move on. So friends, thank you again for joining. As I said, it's a very sensitive and an important topic that we are going to discuss today, mental health. As per WHO, majority of the people in low and middle income countries receive no treatment for their mental health disorders. The National Mental Health Survey states that nearly 150 million Indians suffer from some form of mental health concerns, but only 30 million seek help from families, friends, or counselors. Today's conversation, we have 2 guests, 2 very important guests. It's my pleasure to introduce them both. I will start with Dr. Harish Shetty, who's a practicing psychiatrist. Dr. Shetty is someone who has immense experience in school mental health and has conducted hundreds of workshops for students and teachers. He's in some educational institution or the other every week, disseminating information, talking to children, talking to the educationists, and he continues to champion the rights of children. And Dr. Shetty, a number of questions have actually come concerning children. So amongst the attendees, you have parents, concerned parents who have kids who are going to school. As you know, both Amit and I have 2 boys under the age of 15. So thank you very much for championing the cause of children. Dr. Shetty has also worked in the field of yoga and mental health. And what I found very interesting is that he has immense experience in the field of disaster and mental health, and he has worked with victims of several natural calamities. Thank you, Dr. Shetty. What I found even more interesting, Dr. Shetty, and because I'm a lawyer, that you have been training the judiciary and the distinguished faculty, and you are a distinguished faculty at some of the law colleges. I found it very heartening that you actually train in Bhopal at the academy. That academy was actually founded by my guru, Dr. Madhava Menon, under whose tutelage I went to Bangalore to study law. So again, amazing, sir. Thank you very much for taking the time out to join my lockdown conversation. Amit, my dear friend, Amit Nayyar, he's the president at Paytm and part of the leadership team. He leads the Paytm's financial services business with oversight for lending, insurance, wealth management, and broking business. He has over 18 years of professional experience. And I say this, and I find it is very important to state this because we are all, many of us are professionals, fellow professionals, and there's a certain amount of stress that each one of us take at work, at home. And it's important to know that he has spent 18 years in the profession as an investment banker. And prior to joining Paytm, he was the MD at Arkwood Capital Investment Banking. He served at Goldman Sachs. He's a grad from IIM Bangalore. So important for you to know that background. He hails from Chandigarh, and very importantly, he has a loving wife, Priyanka. He has two boys, as I said, Rishon and Vidan. And like me, he's an avid sports fan, loves playing cricket for Team Just Cricket. That's what we are wearing. And for the MCA club, and dabbles with tennis once in a while. So those are two very distinguished guests we have today who are speaking in the lockdown conversation. Thank you very much, Dr. Shetty. Thank you very much, Amit. I hope that was all right, and I hope I did not cross the limits and cross the boundaries. I know you all asked me to keep it short.
No, thanks a lot, Ajay, and thanks a lot for your friendship as well as allowing us and inviting us to this conversation, which obviously is for a very important topic. I think we'll talk about it as we go through a coping mechanism. I think one of my coping mechanism is just cricket and playing cricket and following cricket. And we'll talk a lot more about it, but I'll first have the doctor speak about some of the key important issues as an expert. And I'd love to kind of contribute a little bit from my experiences. And as we go through this, I would say a bit of a terrible phase of this whole lockdown plus and how it impacts the mental health. I thought it's a topical point that we should all be discussing. So thanks a lot again for that.
Actually, Amit, we should be thanking you. Doctor's profession is very clear. He's a psychiatrist. He's used to talking. He's used to answering these questions. I'm very easily asking the questions. I'm not responding to the questions. You are, and you sharing your experience, I think that is the biggest thing. So thanks to you.
I completely agree with Rabindra that it requires a lot of awareness, conviction, courage at this point of time in our country, at this point of time on the earth, to really accelerate the process of awareness so that we save a lot of lives. And you're doing genuinely a human service by coming here and sharing your experience. I'm really touched by this. And when you asked me to come, you said you are sharing. I didn't bat an eyelid and said, I'm coming.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, both. Truly honored that both of you are on the show today. Well, we have a lot of questions. I collected them anonymously. There are some which I have of my own through the reading that I've done. There are more than 120 and it's rising number of attendees, several more on the Facebook live streaming. So I'm only going to give a stat which I found very interesting. My questions have been grouped together as I always try and do, and I'll jump straight to them. But one stat, Dr. Shetty, which I found was, as per the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, 1 out of 8 people in India have mental health disorders, and 1 out of 5 are perhaps young mothers, if I have got it right.
You're
sir?
right.
And when I compare it with the audience, I mean, it could be 1 amongst every 12 of us attending who may have mental health disorder, and some of us may not even know that we have it. So, Dr. Shetty, if I may ask you my first question, I understand that mental health is too important to leave it to just mental health professionals. And I understand from your talks, from the discussions with you, that mental health is an endemic looming out there, and there needs to be a partnership. Would you, sir, explain a little bit about what you mean when you say this?
The latest figures, again, after NIMANS, was global burden of disease 3 months before the COVID came into India. And they're talking about 1 out of 7. And I would like to place some more statistics. 1 out of 3 reasons for ending somebody's life in India are family problems. 1 out of 3. 1 out of 6 people who end their lives by self-harm are housewives. Latest NCRB figures. 1 out of 5 people who end their lives by self-harm are daily wage laborers. So, as you said, Rabindra, that this is a looming mental health epidemic as shared by the president of the country a couple of years ago in a conference. It is staring in our eyes. Now, everybody asked me, are you exaggerating? I said, no, just open the papers. Papers are also very bold in reporting accidents as a complication of mental. They've stopped reporting suicides unless there is a celebrity. There are 4,000 psychiatrists in India. Maximum can stretch that number to 5,000, not more. There are hardly any psychologists, 4,000 to 5,000. And in the villages, there are no psychologists. There are no psychiatric social workers, MSW or PSW from colleges. Numbers are very small. And when numbers are very small, and we have a health worker in India who goes and treats malaria in the villages. He gives chloroquine if there's fever with chills. We have health workers who go and assess urgent cases for them to be treated across the country. Anganwadi and health workers are very well known. So in this scenario, what sort of health system you want to build in India? You want a top-down system where you need PhD psychologists, MD psychiatrists at all levels, or you want to have a bottom-up system where small issues can be managed by general practitioners, lesser issues can be managed by mental health soldiers, a little higher issues can be managed by probably also yoga, exercise, sports, relaxation therapy. Because in life, you have either sprain of the mind or fracture of the mind. Sprain is that you're upset, you're down, and you can be brought back to life by friends, cricket, lawn tennis, love, affection, support, connectivity, and then you're back. But fracture is whatever happens, I need psychiatric care, I need serious mental health intervention. Now, if I twist the arm of Rabindra genuinely and he breaks his arm, arresting me cannot treat his fracture. This fracture has to be treated. That's fracture of the mind. So when we look at this entire system, I feel that we need to have a holistic system of mental health care where the saints are also important, the priests are also important for the sprain of the mind. Let's not jump and absorb Western science in its unpurified manner. So they are also important to manage stress. They manage stress. They find meaning. People go and attend. They find meaning in life. They enjoy the joy of giving, even if it's small, even if it's serving food in a gathering. So you need this large number of priests and seers who are doing good work. I'm not saying that they're pure, I'm saying they're good work. After them, you need empowered NGOs, you need empowered EAPs in the office, you need empowered HR professionals also who are trained to deal with smaller issues. You need empowered sarpanches in a village, community leaders in a village, and all this entire setup. So India has a buffer. The West has no buffer. Either you go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist because they have no relatives. All the relatives in the West have been replaced by mental health professionals. We have a buffer, though all the buffers are not healthy. Then you have a resource of mental health professionals. So mental health is too important to be left to mental health professionals. That's what late Professor N. Wick shared. Is because the problem is enormous. Everybody would not need a specialist all the time. To identify and find resources to manage those problems is the key. Which means you have a triangle. At the top, you have psychiatrists and psychologists. On the ground, you have mental health soldiers. Then you have family physicians. Then you have other professionals. So we need a whole. They say it takes a whole village to raise a child. So similarly, I would say it takes the whole society to improve the mental health of the society. Though illnesses have to be treated by professionals. So that's where it is. So India has a very rich history of culture. India has a very rich history of so many other things. Let's absorb, let's link it to the mental health activism and the mental health leading. That is what I meant by mental health is too important to be left by mental health. Can you believe in my work, I also have police officers as counselors. When you have somebody who's taking drugs for a very long time, doesn't stop, the rehab doesn't stop, the empowered police officer calls the boy and says, this has to stop, and you have to report to me every week with your urine reports that you're clean. The psychologist does the counseling. So, but the police officer brings a ceasefire, a stoppage to his intake out of fear, and that also is very important. So we need to use the utilities of different professions. Also, priests who have tremendous influence on some people. People, when they refuse to take any treatment, the priest can bring the person. Indians कहीं ना कहीं वो झुकते हैं. कहाँ झुकते हैं वो भी हमारे काम में यदि उपयोग हो. So we need to build a holistic mental system and not a top-down mental system with PhD psychologists and MD psychiatrists.
Understood. No, thank you very much. In fact, towards the latter half, I do have some questions for you, sir, on corporates, what they can do about education in schools. So we'll come to it. But if I may ask you, in your experience, and I'm going to break this question into two parts. One is about how I see signs of it in me, myself. So how and when do I know I have signs of mental health issues or disorder? And two is, what are the early signs to identify in a friend or a family member or somebody I love, he or she has a mental health issue? And if I may ask you to start with the I, and Amit, feel free to jump in at the right time when you want to share your experience, because it is extremely important to hear from you about when you felt this or when somebody else identified it. So, Dr. Shetty,
if I feel so uncomfortable that I'm not able to concentrate on the work which I've been doing every day, for whatever reason, there could be a trigger, there may not be a trigger. If I feel so uncomfortable that I'm not able to enjoy things which I've been enjoying earlier very easily, I feel so uncomfortable that my sleep breaks very often or I sleep excessively. I feel so uncomfortable that I want to be on the bed all the time and I don't feel like leaving the bed at all. And I feel extremely lazy as interpreted by other family members. I feel so uncomfortable that my heart races so badly that I feel like I'm going to drop dead when everything, all physical examinations are normal. I feel so uncomfortable that I feel useless. I see no hope. I feel hopeless. I feel like crying excessively, which is not the way I am. I feel so irritable that I feel so angry and I might shout, scream, and I might hit, but I might feel very, very guilty after some time. I feel so agitated without reason, or I react to small things with an exacerbated response. I wash my hands so often that I feel my hands are so dirty. I get so stupid thoughts about God, about religion, about sex, and I'm not able to control those thoughts. I feel so suspicious of people that I feel that they're all against me, they're out to get me. I hear voices, imaginary voices, when they don't exist. And I feel that there are people around me and I do not know who they are. And I sometimes talk to those voices and I mutter to myself. I feel so troubled by images when I have been in a hospital taking care of my father and mother, and he or she passed away, and that entire images are really coming back. I feel so unstable that I have been sexually abused at some point of time, and I still see those images and I can't live. The images come straight. If I'm faced an earthquake, riot, or any disaster, I see those images coming, and I just can't avoid those images. I feel so sad and depressed that I feel like drinking alcohol, taking cannabis, taking cocaine. And I feel the need to take alcohol because depression and alcohol is a cocktail. It's like petrol and fire. I feel so sad that I feel like ending my life, running away from the entire situation. Bhag jao. I feel like ending my life. I feel like God, take me away. When I stand on the road, I feel that a vehicle should come and hit me and I should leave. I feel so uncomfortable that I could read the newspaper in 1 hour, but I take 1 hour to read one article. Any one of these symptoms, any change in behavior, mental health screening. Let us be as respectful to the brain as we are respectful to the stomach or the heart. You rush to a doctor when you vomit, but have the same speed of going to somebody for help when something is wrong with your brain and mind, which is important. And the fault is, sir, when you were small, Mr. Rabindra, 1 year old, your mother taught you how to show your nose. Rabindra, jara naak batao, kaan batao, पेट batao. Nobody said, show me your mind. That narrative did not start at all in childhood. और अभी किसी को डिप्रेशन है, अमित विल से, यार विचार हटा दो यार, पॉजिटिव हो जाओ यार, मुझे देखो. And this मुझे देखो syndrome is the worst. The patients coming, the elders who come with the patient start their lectures. मैं 4 बजे उठता हूँ और योग, सो जाओ यार, क्यों 4 बजे उठते हो, सबको जरा सोने दो. मुझे मेरी जिंदगी में मैंने कितनी तकलीफें से, अरे यार उसका मन का फ्रैक्चर है, खुद का तुम्हारा रेज्यूमे मत झाड़ो यार. विचार नहीं हटा सकते, उसके हाथ में स्विच नहीं है वो विचार हटाने का. विचार आते हैं, उल्टी कोई करता नहीं है, उल्टी आती है, तब आप उसको रोकते हो क्या? स्टॉप दैट. यू से वॉमिट बेटा, पित्त सब बाहर आएगा, खराब जब बाहर आएगा तो पेट शांत होगी. बट जब विचार आते हैं तो हम ये बकवास करते, तुम्हें कुछ नहीं हुआ, तुम्हें क्या कमी है, औरत अच्छी है, बच्चे अच्छे, पैसा है, जॉब है, क्या कमी है यार? मन का फ्रैक्चर होता है, यहाँ फ्यूज आउट होता है, वो मेरा दोष नहीं. डिप्रेशन इज सो इनविजिबल and very few people understand what's happening. The person who's suffering and the person who's treating. Others find it very difficult, and all these sentences when uttered to somebody who's ill, it shatters them, it breaks them.
Understood. Amit, can I draw you in now?
Yeah, I think Doctor has done a fantastic job of just kind of laying it out very, very nicely. And I was just kind of smiling as he was going through the various set of symptoms. It was pretty much kind of, he was reading out, if not in totality, but to most extent, what I had felt when I started thinking about it, as well as started discovering it. And I think one of the things that we were discussing prior to this chat, Rabindra, which is, I think acceptance and feeling that you're kind of going through something is probably the first sign that you can do kind of yourself a favor, which is taking a step back, breaking that stereotype in your head and saying, accepting that I have a problem. I think a lot of people are not wired, or as we kind of grow up, we are not taught to think that way. We are all taught to kind of accept.
Be strong.
We are strong. We can tame our own mind. It doesn't help, honestly, if you're a kind of there are stereotypes around that you are a kind of a grown-up male adult working in a kind of a good profession, you have kids to take care of. And it doesn't help, especially people like me who come from a place called Patiala in Punjab, where kind of anything that you can deal with, you can pour a glass of whiskey to yourself and you kind of get that right? And so I think to your question, which is, I think you have to be conscious of yourself, and you have to start seeing some of those signs. It definitely helps if you are surrounded by people. And when I say people, it can be friends, family, professional colleagues, anyone. But if you have a close circle of friends or people around you who can notice certain changes in certain behavioral patterns. And in my case, rather than me generalizing, I think doctor is the expert in talking about, let me just talk about my experience. I think there were certain signs which were worrying. And those signs were suggesting this is beyond a normal stress or a normal mood swing. And I wouldn't go into the triggers. Everybody has their own triggers. The triggers are not important. But what's important is, was it leading to prolonged bouts of sadness? And there's a difference between being sad and being depressed. So there was prolonged, long bouts. And when I say long bouts, these are I'm talking about weeks, almost running into months rather than just kind of days and hours. There were anxiety. There were times when I felt agitated. I thought I was being short-tempered on issues that I would normally be very, very kind of casual and cool about. And when I would look back and say I was being a bit of a stupid idiot, that I was kind of losing my temper for such a small thing, you have that realization, especially if you're a rational and a logical mind, you would realize these things as you go along. But you also feel that you're kind of losing control. And it's not because you don't understand things, it's just because your mind is starting to play certain games. And I think that's kind of an important point, I would say, to realize that you need help. And I think at some point you cross over from the point, and I think Dr. used a very interesting aspect around a fracture versus a sprain, which is certain aspects of a physical kind of deformity can be treated through physiotherapy. And maybe your brain can work and be trained, I would say the physiotherapy equivalent of that, which is you go out and play, you go and meet your friends, you go and do yoga, you go for a run. And there are scientific reasons that you go for a run, there would be a release of certain hormones that will make you feel happy. But sometimes you cross over to a point where it's almost like a fracture, which is you can't treat your fracture or a serious physical ailment just through physiotherapy. You need to go through certain form of medication / a kind of a medical intervention, which is required. And there's nothing wrong with it. As it's nothing wrong with dealing with it on a physical basis, there's nothing wrong with it dealing on a mental basis. But you have to see those signs. And if people are around you who kind of very closely kind of looking at you and observing you, and you yourself are slightly more conscious, you can start to see those patterns and get to that point. And as I say, I think I think I heard the word stigma before, and I would say it's stigma, whether you call it stereotyping or you may call it multiple things. I think the step one is acceptance. The denial of this in a society that we live in, I think that just itself stops a lot of people to kind of take a step back and not even kind of take a step out of their house to go and start addressing this problem. It's easy to pick up and get to know who your GP is. It's very easy to find out an ENT specialist. It's very difficult to find who a good psychiatrist is. Yeah. When I had to go and look for one, it was very difficult. My wife was literally did a Google search and figured out who the best psychiatrists are around the area. And it's difficult that you don't find clinics or psychiatrists on a high street. You have to go into certain by-lanes inside. And for some reason, they're kind of hiding in certain by-lanes somewhere, as if it's almost taboo for people to kind of walking into those clinics. And to be perfectly honest, to be brutally honest, I felt awkward stepping into one of those at one point of time. And it just felt I was breaking tons of stereotypes that I've always lived with and grown up with. Is someone who's supposed to be so much in control of himself, as well as someone who's at some level taking decisions professionally, which is impacting so much human and economic capital, but at the same time is seeking advice for his own mind, but his mind is kind of taking more decisions. I think there is a lot of contradiction in that. It's not easy to accept it, but at some point you have to make that step forward. And to be honest, I'm glad that I took that step. And I think the reason to do this was also when I look around now, there is just so much, I would say still a hesitation from an acceptance standpoint. And we keep seeing and looking around the kind of news that keeps coming around, which just seems that this has to be addressed. And I think society is also at a point where I think the general education levels are going up and people are being accepting of a few of these things. And why not this? I think there are a lot of other things which get accepted. So sorry, it's a bit of a long-winded answer to your question, but yeah, there are signs that you see. You know, watch them very closely. I would say a very specific sign that I would generally say lack of sleep or your ability to not get out of bed over a long period of time, losing your temper that you would normally not lose, feeling anxious and paranoid. I think these are some of the very, very, I would say, low-hanging symptoms that you can kind of point out. And if the feeling persists, I think it's worthwhile going and showing to a doctor. I think in this case, I would probably say err on the side of caution. You'd rather go and see a doctor and get a negative report rather than sit back and say, I can deal with it myself. This is not that, right? And there's no point living in denial.
Right. No, thank you very much, Amit, for sharing so openly and so frankly. That makes a huge difference. Dr. Shetty, if I may ask you one question here. When is it, how does one differentiate, and I'm asking this question, how does one differentiate between a sprain or a fracture? How do you know, when do you know it's the issue is really a mental health disorder versus it just being a transitionary episode? Some thoughts from you on that.
I like what Amit said, err on the side of screening. And then you come back and say, there's not any psychiatric illness, there's something to leave, you can do. So sprain of the mind is when you have an event in your life, you lost money in your business, you lost a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you have a divorce, you failed in your exam, you have been separated from your properties, joint family separating, so many issues. And you get very upset, you go and talk to your friends, you have a glass of beer with your friends. Don't drink too much when you're down. When you're down, you should stay away from alcohol. And you exercise, you go to your guru for some advice, you go to your priest, you do yoga, you run. And then after some time, reasonably, you come back normal, you start functioning very fast. So that does not affect largely your relationship with others. That does not affect your sleep, your appetite, and your other functions of the day, biological functions of the day. You are shaken, but it's not affecting you. You don't have issues with large issues of concentration, and you're able to jump back and bounce back and start functioning. And you don't have a past history of mental illness. That's very important. No past history of mental. If you have past history, you have to be very careful. You have no family history of mental illness, because mental illness can run in families. And you don't have clear-cut thoughts of sadness and depression. You have sadness, but you are not depressed, which would mean what? If you're sad, kharab lagta hai, but I can still talk to my wife or my husband. I can still laugh at the joke. I can still enjoy things which I've been enjoying earlier. There is no anhedonia. Now, what is anhedonia? Inability to experience pleasure or sadness. So, and I'm there. I'm not gone away, and I come back to normal at the earliest. That is pain of the mind. Fracture is, I tried this for 15 days. I tried homeopathy, I tried yoga, I just could not concentrate. I started running, I didn't feel good. I feel fatigued. My irritability refuses to go in spite of all exercise, because exercise is supposed to clear tears, fears, and anger when you're stressed. When you're stressed. And I still continue persisting with my symptoms. Don't err on the side of waiting. Go and screen to find out whether it's strain of the mind or fracture of the mind. Globalization has caused a lot of disconnection, but we should consciously reconnect and seek support. And if I have even one thought of wanting to harm myself, screen yourself. One thought, just one thought. Don't listen to any lectures of your grandparents who have taken care of the entire joint family for the last 25 years. They have no understanding of this at all. Their skill set is different. And don't listen to somebody in the United States of America who will seek an opinion to the psychiatrist there indirectly and come back and tell you. It doesn't work. See a friendly neighborhood psychiatrist. So in short, strain of the mind is when you can recoup by conventional method, which generally all families practice. Practice is that you don't recoup in 15 days time, at least 15 days time, and you generally go and screen yourself. And when you screen yourself, don't say, don't give me medicines. I hate medicines. My God, you will never tell that to a cardiologist, because you do not want to see your picture on a photo frame in the wall. You will never say that to a diabetologist, but to the psychiatrist, it's similar like going to a vegetable market. भाव कम करो भाजी का, यहाँ दवाई कम करो. तो यार हीमोग्लोबिन कम होती है तो हम आयरन देते हैं, लोखंड देते हैं, लोखंड, आयरन लोखंड खाते हो ना. शुगर इंक्रीज होती है तो हम इंसुलिन देते हैं, शुगर पिघल जाता है. And when you have depression, which is clinical, you give medicines, the thoughts dissolve, the negative thoughts also dissolve, because serotonin and other chemicals also come back to near normal. So it's very important to understand that tablets, इसका आदत हो जाएगी, इससे किडनी डैमेज कुछ नहीं होने वाला. आदत, man, I actually go and tell them, आदत हो जाएगी. तुम 40 साल से खाना खा रहे हो, बंद करो यार, एडिक्शन है तुमको खाने का. I tell them, if you wear specs, throw your specs. यार क्यों, ये चश्मा का एडिक्शन है तुमको, जरूरत है इसके लिए दवाई की आवश्यकता है. क्रैक अ जोक इन बिटवीन. ऊपर वाले ने जब तुमको बनाया, वहाँ असेंबली लाइन आजकल वो इट्स नॉट मॉडर्न, दे हैव नॉट अपडेटेड द सिस्टम. और आपको जब ऊपर वाले ने भेजा नीचे, तो दिमाग में तड़का नहीं दिया, और आपके कुंडली में हमारा नाम लिखा है कि नीचे वाला आपको टिक कर दे. इन अ वेरी लाइटर वे आई शेयर दिस. द पॉइंट इज इट्स डैम टफ टू ट्रीट पेशेंट्स इन इंडिया. Hundreds of questions. And if somebody is IIM, it is tougher. And I admire Amit to really accept this much early. I had a seminar in the morning where 3 patients came. One took medications after 15 years. One took medications after 5 years. And sir, subsyndromal depression is in the family. वो चिड़चिड़पना उसका 15 साल से चालू, यार वो कभी चेंज नहीं होगा. वो काम तो है ना करता है, नहीं वो चिड़चिड़पना जाएगा if you go behind the pana, because behind every behavior is a story, and behind a story there are several stories. So many people, नहीं वो हमारे फैमिली वो बहुत चिढ़ता है, उसको हम एक्सेप्ट कर दे. नहीं वो डिप्रेशन हो सकता है, स्क्रीन करो यार.
Yeah.
You might help him to feel better. Sorry for this long answer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so Ajay, I'll just kind of add one piece to it, which is what I called, given that we're kind of cricket lovers, right? So, which is what I call the third man syndrome, which is you stand somewhere on third man, you feel that you're playing cricket, but you're actually just kind of standing there. You're not part of the game, right? And I see so many people who go about living their lives that way, which is they're somewhere in third man. People think, everybody feels, the team feels that he's part of the game, playing the game, etc. But he's just kind of sitting in a corner, standing in a corner, right? And that's kind of where you're masking your own feelings. You're masking yourself away from the society. You're masking it away from your near and dear ones. And unless someone really kind of probes in and bangs the door open, you may just be standing there thinking that this will go away just because I'm trying to play and doing all this, but you're actually not playing. And you're just kind of standing in there. So, and those are the things to watch out for. And those are the things that your close circle of family, friends, etc., can kind of help you come out of third man, come and stand on mid-off and kind of play here, because otherwise you can be sitting there and people may not even notice. And that's the kind of the sad part, that there are a lot of people who just there and people leave them. And sometimes it's difficult and more important for introverts, right? Because introverts, by definition, love to be on their own. And now I think this God has kind of given us this kind of beautiful gift of giving us a phone that we can all kind of go and drown ourselves in the phone, looking ourselves very, very important. But you never know what behind that somebody is kind of trying to do, is just trying to avoid social interaction, or he is not confident, or he's feeling very, very down and dejected. And he's trying to kind of spend time with the phone and actually getting cut off. So he actually needs help, but he's trying to kind of either kind of stay away from seeking that help himself, or he's just not confident enough to kind of step out and accept it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So doctor, just to clarify one doubt which I have in my mind, both Amit and I play a lot of cricket, and we played together. And before lockdown, every weekend was cricket.
So you bat or you bowl, sir?
So we're both all-rounders.
Oh, lovely.
In India, everybody's an all-rounder. If you don't get to bowl, you will get to bat. If you don't get to bat, you at least bowl. Do something if you're going to the ground.
Kuch to karo yaar.
Amit is a better all-rounder, but I'm a better bowler. My question is, do you think, excessive cricket is a sign of mental health disorder, or just a question?
Okay, I just to add to what he said, excessive fatigue, pain all over the body are also signs which you need to watch. So I had this husband who would run to play cricket on a weekend, and he was newly married. And the wife came and said, "Sala, isko pata nahi, shaadi hua hai, Saturday, Sunday ko jayega bhagta hai cricket khelne ko." Or in Friday, he said he wants to sleep early, Saturday goes in the morning. There are people who are doing a lot of good work outside for the community. And 2 days ago, we had a seminar with lawyers and judges. And one judge from the Calcutta High Court, a lady, she said, she found 2-3 cases where people are doing a lot of work outside, but they're beating up their wives. So if you're playing excessive cricket, it's not wrong at all, because you need to have passion for something in life. But if you're avoiding your responsibilities, yaar, lafda hai, nahi yaar, ye to ghar mein, nahi yaar, bhag jao, cricket khelo, sham ko thako so jao. Or if you're doing a lot of social work, but you absolutely are trying to avoid all the issues which you are supposed to face, then you have to look within and find out what is happening to you. And what he said, Amit said beautifully, is that a lot of people who are depressed gravitate towards gadgets. Because tension hai yaar, chhod do yaar, bas baith ho jao. A lot of children who have problems with parents or studies, they gravitate towards gadgets. Some gravitate towards alcohol. So it's extremely important to know that if you're doing things for leisure or for fun or for meaning in life, but you completely ignore your responsibilities and all the other things which you actually need to carry out, you need to be explored to find out if there is a reactive depression. There's a lot of anxiety which is there to face issues of life, or if there are any reactive factors which are really paralyzing you, that you avoid those situations. Anxious people use avoidance as a coping mechanism. अभी इसके बारे में बात मत करो यार, don't talk about it now, बाद में करेंगे, बाद में करके जिंदगी निकल जाती है और वो issue रुक जाता. That would not mean that you need to resolve all issues in life immediately, sir. Sometimes नहीं जमता है, उस issue को लॉकर में डाल दो, 8-10 दिन के बाद खोलो, वो अपने आप resolve भी होता है.
Thank you very much. Thank you for clarifying that. Very important for some of us who play excessive cricket.
I think one point, RJ, I would want to say is, I think it's not important to link whether it's depression, whether it's mental health issues, etc. they don't necessarily need to be linked to a particular specific trigger and why it's happening and why it's not happening. Okay, I'll take my case here. If somebody, and a lot of people on this call who know me, and a lot of people know me for a long period of time, and I think everybody who knows me knows that I'm someone who's always spent a lot of time into kind of nurturing deep relationships with various people, depending on who they are. And everybody knows me about from my professional standpoint, from a personal standpoint, et cetera, et cetera. So when you look at outside in, and it's actually a similar view inside out, which is you feel all the variables which are required to live a happy, good, successful life in a society like ours, where there are certain check boxes of success, certain check boxes of happiness. In my case, I think most of you who know me, most of those check boxes are already checked, right? And whether it's professional success, whether it's monetary success, whether it's family, good environment, kids, all of that stuff. And when it's difficult to fathom outside in, it's also difficult to accept inside out that this can happen to me. And why is this happening to me? I didn't really have an accident that caused me a mental fracture. There was I would say, a particular orientation, and that kind of deals with a lot of us, that how we've been kind of accustomed to think about various things, and that defines how your thinking is and what your mindset is, and that may lead to, I would say, long-term damage, or the kind of what we call the fracture, long-term fracture that happens over a period of time. But generally, I think the point that I want to make is that it's not something that can hit, it does not need to have a reason. And that's a very important point for people to accept that this can happen to anyone, and it's normal for it to happen to anyone. And accept that, because me walking on the street, or me playing cricket with you, or me going and kind of in my workplace, or doing town halls, or spending a lot of time doing multiple things that I've done as a banker and otherwise now as a corporate guy, a lot of those things continue to happen, but still this can happen to me. And you have to accept it. You can't be resisting that fact that no, nothing, everything is fine with me. I have a loving family. I have a great job. Everything is fine. Why is this happening to me? Still, you have to accept it, that this can still happen to you. And I think that's a very important realization, that you can be perfectly normal and still this can happen to you.
Sure. No, very, 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 very thoughtful and very insightful. And as usual, you're hitting the ball out of the park every time you speak. There was one thing which I wanted to ask you, Dr. Shetty, and that's about stress and the linkage between stress and the role it plays on mental health. Most of us on the call, and many of us who are professionals, face the stress at workplace. There are many who consider work as a rat race. There is pressure amongst kids, pressure amongst teenagers, whether it is exams, whether it is competition at school, whether it is peer pressure created by parents, whether it is, it could be affairs, young kids, we are talking of teenagers, even us kids are living stressful lives. So my question, sir, is how does stress play a role in mental health? I mean, I'm assuming it does. How does stress play a role?
As I was saying, that globalization has caused disconnection, disruption of systems of life. I would see my parents at home at 5:30 in the evening, but my son will not see me at 5:30. And that is a reality. All corporates have big vision statements and mission statements on the walls at the entrance, but they don't mean anything. I mean, they just don't mean. So the brain has not changed its size. It's not changed its shape, nor has it changed its texture, its color, its volume. But still depression has increased. So why? So that means that the environment has changed. The environment is destroying the mind-body orchestra because you're sleeping less, you're working more, you're sedentary, probably your emotional contact time in the family has gone down. Because you're too tired to come and share emotions. The family contact time has really gone down. So when all this happens, we have multiple coping mechanisms. Young boys and girls, unfortunately, go to the lounge and start drinking. Do peg marenge. We'll have too large. Some are much smarter. They said, why have 2 pegs? It takes a long time. It smells. Why not have 2 drags of hash or weed? It's faster. When there's more stress, they need a quick high. When there was no stress, they need activities in the village, functions in the village, bhajan, aram se gap marna, katte pe jake chai pina. But when there's high stress, you need to do also some cope like that. Some cope by saying, kuch bhi karo yaar, main yoga karunga. मैं रामदेव का सभा में जाऊंगा, मैं शंभवी महामुद्रा करूंगा, सुदर्शन क्रिया करूंगा, तस्बीह गिनूंगा, and I'll do a lot of other things. And somehow you try to. So what's happening is, sir, RB, I'll call you RJ because he's called you RJ. हम stress को face करते हैं, and then you collapse and you get depressed. That's why depression has increased. So the incidence of depression has increased not because everybody has got genetic depression. It's because unknowingly the world has changed, and disconnection is worse than HIV. Remember this: disconnection is worse than HIV. आप सोचिए, if you are born in Bombay, you would remember that the smaller houses which people lived in earlier had a latch. You could enter anybody's house and go and expect a meal. Then came the door, the flat door. Then came the keyhole. Then came the safety door. Then came the guy down in the building who says, "आपको कहाँ जाना है?" Then came the phone. हम पूछ लेते हैं आपको अंदर छोड़ना या नहीं. Then came the camera. कौन आया जरा देखो. So slowly disconnection. So stress is one of the most important cause of depression if it's not handled well. So what is important in the 21st century is building your emotional wealth. Your fiscal wealth is not important to give you emotional joy. Building your emotional wealth, which means what? Which means important to understand that emotional energy is drained in your work. Whatever you say. 4 जोक ऑफिस में मारते हैं, घर पे एक भी जोक नहीं मारता है वो बंदा. And Indian men, as they come home, they believe that the world is on their shoulder. They're all Hercules. Or people don't understand how much they work. If men in India understand that the homemaker works more than the man in the office, that day the family will get liberated. And the day when he feels that, ठीक है यार, ऑफिस में आऊंगा, मैं visiting card फेंक दूंगा, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, मैं vice president senior है कि junior है. I live my life childlike. I'll tell you a story, small story. I got a call from a 10th standard boy and an 8th standard girl in the same family. After the lockdown, this father and mother are behaving like children. I said, पहले यार वो आते थे, बात नहीं करते थे, खाना खाते थे, हम लोग चुप बैठते थे, सब पूछते थे, exam, how was the exam, where is the exam, and we used to sleep. I was used to that. I'm not used to this. He says, sit on my lap. I'm not used to this at all. I said, my dear beta and beti, lockdown has helped your parents to arrive. They've arrived. So if you're childlike at home, you are much. So how to beat stress? Emotional hygiene. The way you clean your body every day, share your feelings. जो भी है, मेरी लग गई. Appraisal में मेरा salary नहीं बढ़ा. 25% पे कट हुआ. वो बॉस का दिमाग इतना खराब है कि साला मेरे पे चिल्लाता है, ऐसा लगता है 2 कान के नीचे बजाऊं. Share your feelings. The F factor in the family is very important, where people share feelings. But there are 3 types of families. One is the feeling family. Second is the intellectual family. Everybody is in USA. We only discuss the Indo-China problems and the war between India. We don't talk any gossip. We don't talk about small things in life. We only talk about Indo-US China axis. What is going to happen? Or intellectual family ko maar goli yaar. Maar goli. Oh, that family will be a stoic family. The second family is the religious family. हरीश शेट्टी का और अमित जी का कोई बातचीत है, हम भगवान को पूछेंगे कि जाऊं क्या नहीं, 24 घंटा भगवान भगवान भगवान. This family has low self-worth, but the family which thrives are the feeling family. बच्चों के सामने भी झगड़ो, कुछ नहीं होगा बच्चों को, as long as you share feelings and don't insult and humiliate. तुमने मेरे माँ के सामने क्यों चिल्लाया, मुझे खराब लगा यार. Such a normal feeling to say. तेरे जैसे आदमी को मैंने देखा नहीं. That will affect the child. So it's important that you have an F factor. Number 2 is remember YESS. कुछ भी करो, yoga is stress buster. कुछ भी करो यार, तुम हंसो योगा पे, बोलो श्वास लेकर क्या होने वाला है, पता नहीं. सिंपैथेटिक और पैरासिम्पैथेटिक जो नर्वस सिस्टम बैलेंस में आता है. करो यार योगा, मेडिटेशन करो. If you're angry against yoga, meditation, just sit down for half an hour without any talking. Silence is good. That is 1. E is exercise. S is sleep. And the 4th thing is very important, sir. Kindness and service. Changes the immunity, brings back the mind and the body in an orchestra, stops the jugalbandi between the mind and the body. Because stress, what does it do? Mind punches the body. And the body says, pancreas कहता है मैं स्ट्राइक पे जाऊंगा, जा इंसुलिन नहीं दूंगा तुम्हें. स्टमक कहता है भर भर के हाइड्रोक्लोरिक एसिड मैंने रिलीज नहीं किया तो मेरा नाम स्टमक नहीं. And then they go on a protest mode. What is important is stress, managing stress is aligning the mind and the body. And as Harish always said, post-COVID, living is cheap, but lifestyle is expensive.
Living is cheap, but life.
अपने भेजे को संभालो इस COVID में. See that the cells fire, and this is 5,000 voltage. Even if you lose your job, even if you lose your salary, you will find creative ways of solving your future, and you'll not get it.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
I will just add a couple of pieces to that.
You are supposed to speak. I'm not supposed to speak.
No. I think you're speaking so beautifully. But yeah, just to supplement a couple of things. I think what is stress, right? I think the way I see this is the whole world is just carrying too much burden on its shoulders. It's almost like everybody is living a life which is so important. I just look at people just kind of looking into their phones and talking on their phones as if the world is falling without them not being on the phone at this point of time. Some way people need to take a step back and stop and say, what is so unique about their problems? Everybody is facing similar problems. Somebody has a work problem, somebody has a house problem. There's nothing that there's a new problem that has kind of emerged, which is keeping you so stressful and why you're kind of carrying this whole ball of burden on your shoulders. There is this other big, what I say, obsession that people have, which is, I think death has always been a big obsession with the world, and wanting to become immortal is a very big obsession. And I think that creates a lot of stress. What is being immortal? People are trying to do work that transcends their own death. People want to go to the next, want to be remembered like years and years after when they die. And I think that's kind of generating so much stress on people that they want to do things which either they are not equipped to do, or they're not capable to do, or they themselves are raising their own expectations. And I think the gap between society's perception and your expectations creates stress. And the minute that gap is very wide, it just keeps, and you multiply that by your own ego, that stress keeps multiplying. And eventually that all kind of comes back and starts reflecting in the form of stress and depression and other things, in your strained relationships. And people kind of start, I think this whole point about being in the now rather than being in the future, I think everybody is trying to be in future. And when I say future, it's even beyond your own death. And if you just try to simplify it, it can be simplified in a very, very easy manner, because you just need to look around. People are dealing with very basic problems in their life. And if you start feeling a bit grateful about that and be a bit more generous and respectful and empathetic, I think it just lead to, I would generally say, a happier and a more respectful and empathetic society. Sorry, it was a bit of a tangent, but I thought that's kind of what's driving it. And I think we are being slightly indulgent with our own kids, and we need to be very cautious that as the next generation kind of comes along, we teach them a few basic things, including learning to celebrate their attempts and learning how to fail. I think a lot of us have not been taught how to fail. And when failure first hits us, I think that's kind of where the stress and a lot of these things around mental health and depression come in. If I look at myself, I would say I was hit by failure when I thought I would never fail. Whether it was academic failure or professional failure, I was not prepared for it because I was always made to believe that I am the guy who's the chosen one who cannot get things wrong. Whether I'm playing, whether I'm studying, whether I'm sitting for my entrance examinations, etc., etc. But I've had failures. Everybody will have failures in life. It's only at a later point that you realize that failure is important. And I think if there's one thing that we can teach our kids, I know there were some questions around kids and parenting, etc., etc. I think that's one thing if we can teach our kids is learn to deal with failure. Life is not only about successes. Life is about failure and successes. And everything to some extent is also not permanent, right? And if the success is not permanent, neither is the failure. So your reactions, your actions, how you react to a particular situation should to some extent not get too much driven and influenced by failure or success, both ways. And having I would say, equanimous or maintaining equanimity in the face of either a success or a failure is very important. And I think that just helps you lead a better, more balanced mental life. And I think a lot of us have some of these scars which are deeply embedded in our hearts and heads. And maybe it's our generation, maybe it's the next generation, but I think the least we can do is for the next generation that we are conscious of these things and kind of tell them that way.
Lovely. Chakke pe chakke maar raha hai. Dr. Shetty, if we can quickly come to
I need to ask
please.
Amit, you said you slept less, you were irritable. What were the other symptoms?
I was very irritable, short-tempered. I slept less, but I spent more time in the bed. I could not get out of the bed. 3. 4, I would say I had become paranoid at one point of time. I felt very minor issues related to my work, etc., used to really kind of agitate me to the extent that I would dread getting a phone call or an email. So I used to switch off my cell phone. Like 9 a.m. in the morning, I used to switch off my cell phone for like 4 hours. And to that extent, now these are some of the symptoms I felt. The only symptom I never had, and I think each doctor has asked me, did I feel suicidal? I never felt suicidal. I always felt, and that's where I always felt there was hope. I always felt that life is worth living, and the love of my family, my parents, my wife, my kids, all of that superseded all of this. While I felt hopeless, I questioned life. I questioned the meaning of life. I went into deep reading around mortality, immortality. I read multiple books there. I did a 10-day course for Vipassana.
Oh, really?
I did not speak for 10 days and I kind of meditated for 10 days and I came out of it not necessarily feeling very relieved. It helped me, but I would not necessarily say it was the panacea for all the problems that I was going through. It helped me a bit. I think this whole aspect about equanimity in the face of impermanence was something I picked up from there, which helped me as a philosophy. But yeah, I think those were the kind of issues. I felt tired. I lost a lot of interest. I was like, Ravindra may not have noticed it, but I used to go and play cricket, but I was not playing it the way I would want to play. I used to play the way I used to want to play, but I was not enjoying it the way I used to enjoy. And I used to feel very hollow after the game because I used to look forward to that as my coping mechanism. But when the game got finished, I used to come back even hollower. So I was definitely not enjoying some of the things that I really used to look forward to. I was going through the motions quite a bit. It's like the third man syndrome that I said, just kind of, you're at the third man, ball is coming, 2 balls in 20 overs come to you, you're fine. But you're in the game, people think that you're playing, but you're actually not playing the game. I would not say, and I think that's the point that I would want to make. I would still say, I think I was still doing everything to the best of my abilities. I don't think I was slipping professionally. I don't think I was slipping in my personal responsibilities. I was doing all of that, but I could also sense that I could do so much more if just because I was so inhibited, I could not do. But it helped me because at some point I had my wife who I could speak to very, very closely. We share a very, very close relationship, and we talked about everything and we spoke about it. And she was the one who held my hand and said, "You need to see a doctor." We saw a doctor. It took me some time. And once the medicines started kind of doing their bit, it just kind of everything settled down and everything was fine. And when you look back, I think that's the other interesting piece, which is even in my case, when the doctor first asked me a question to give me an honest assessment of since when is this happening? And I looked back and felt that this has been happening for like 10, 15 years. And I should have probably stepped out 15 years back, but maybe it's a journey everybody has to go through of realization and acceptance. And I went through my own journey and through my own pains and tribulations. But one of the only reasons I kind of agreed to do this talk was that if by just kind of sharing my experience, if somebody can take that step forward early on rather than wait for 10 years or 12 years, what I've waited for, it would just help them and help them lead a better and a happier life.
Thank you very much, Amit, for sharing your thoughts there. So Dr. Shetty, there were some specific questions, and I know we've just sort of completed about an hour and a few minutes. If we can quickly rush through the questions.
Koi baat nahi.
So one sort of question, if we can get a quick answer on guidance to parents with respect to kids and how should they help kids in their formative years, so that they don't fall into this denial or not sort of opening up. And with respect to where the parent should draw a line on the child's demand of wanting something. So some maybe very quick thoughts, sir.
First thing is that sharing bad news early is the first software you need to really put in children. Sharing bad news early, which means if the parents share their bad news early, the kids feel हम भी कुछ कह देंगे, our parents will acknowledge it, accept it, but they'll not throw us out. That is the first thing, sharing bad news. Second is helping kids share their feelings, because when you help them share their feelings right from a very small age, they will meet with accidents, but they will not meet with catastrophes. That I think is very important. That's the second software we need to teach children. Third is teaching the child to wait. Shukrar ko ice cream le aao, bring an ice cream box on Friday because you're supposed to have it on Sunday. And in spite of all the demands and all the creative ways of the child wanting it on Friday evening and not telling his papa, hold on till Sunday. And if there's a tantrum, don't get upset. Tantrum is an opportunity to instill values. If the child cries excessively, that's beautiful. That's the best thing you're doing to your children. After you say no, if they cry, it's beautiful. And those tears help them to experience small pain. And if they experience small pain and experience no, they will experience big pain in the future. They'll be able to manage big pain in the future. That's the third important thing. Fourth is trust your child completely, but keep your eyes open. 20 years back, I would say, trust your child. Keep your eyes open because the world has changed around us. I don't know what the hell is happening. Next is have few rules and many guidelines. We're Indian parents. We're not American parents. अपने घर में कुछ बातें नहीं चलती है तो नहीं. You're a vegetarian. You want to be a vegetarian. नहीं तो नहीं. If you believe that you should not smoke, you should not smoke. Few rules are mandatory and they have to be emphasized. No discussion on that. हम चर्चा करेंगे. बहुत चर्चा करने की आवश्यकता नहीं. I'll share this example of I caught my eldest son with a cigarette while coming home. I was in my car and he was holding a cigarette like this. I kept quiet. The Shetty in me lost it. Atta maji satakli, they say, no? In Singham. The Harish Shetty in me was angry, but the Dr. Harish Shetty said, hold on. So I went away and Daddy, it's not mine here, it's my friend's. I kept quiet. I didn't say anything. On Sunday afternoon, I said, I want to talk to you for 1 minute. This is not acceptable. One line. ये हमारे घर में नहीं चलता. खलास. No democracy in few things in your family. That's very important. Okay. There can be many guidelines. You might go to play, come back late one day. You might go for a friend's party, come back late. But only after they come home, your teenagers, when they come home from party, hug them because you can smell if they have taken weed or if they have alcohol. Very, very important. When the child is in trouble, hug them a little longer and a little stronger. Don't leave them. You don't get parents as exchange offers in Amazon and in Flipkart. You can't choose your parents and your colleagues in life. Prarabdha hai wo. It's prarabdha. It's destiny. You can only choose your in-laws and change them if necessary. That's the only option you have. You don't have anything else. So when they're in deep trouble, if they get pregnant, if they steal your money, if they do something stupid in the school, hold them in your hug. But that would not mean that you accept their behavior. You accept them, but see that they change. My dear parents, children need only 4 things in life. The first thing is emotional safety and security. बच्चों को पता होना चाहिए कि तुम उसको ठोक ठाक के ठीक करोगे, फेंकोगे नहीं. Very important. Second is trust. Trust your child. Third is respect. And the last is love. Love is last. So if the children are experiencing this, that my parents' quotient of acceptance upon expectations is greater than 1. Acceptance upon expectations is greater than 1. Then you have made it. And when there is a crisis, don't be ashamed. I am a bad parent. I'm a bad mother. There's nothing like a bad mother and a bad parent. Every family has stories, bad stories. There's no family which has no difficult stories. Accept it, seek help. I will not tell my sister-in-law. She is Times of India. तुम्हारी बहन को तो मैं नहीं बताऊंगी, कतई नहीं बताऊंगी. मुझे बताना ही नहीं हो, तो सबको पूरे गांव को बता दें, पटियाला को बता देंगे. क्या फर्क पड़ता है? सब बच्चों की जिंदगी में लफड़े होते हैं. And sharing and taking help early, I think, is the most important thing. And lastly, if the parents have serious difference of opinion, don't think that the kids don't know. Kids know. The simplest minds are the most profound. Sit down with them and say, we are having this difference of opinion, but remember, for you, we are both together. We will not, for you, your mother is important, respect her. I am important, respecting. And if we are on the verge of a divorce, remember, be honest to your children. Whatever differences you would be having, see that you are respectful to your children and you're one when you treat your children after your divorce. These are the small things they need to do. And remember, the school and the family are joint families. Don't hassle them. I still remember the day when my son, when there was money missing in the house, and my wife said, ये काम वाली का काम है, मेड से. मैंने कहा नहीं, बच्चों को पहले पूछो. तो दोनों बच्चे आए स्कूल में. They were small amount of money was missing. And I just asked them, बेटे यहाँ कुछ पैसे थे, have you seen it? They both went into the bathroom. The small ones told the elder one, both are boys, तेरे को पता, I've told you, he's a psychiatrist, he'll find out. And the elder one saying, you also ate, I also ate, we spent the money together. Why are you so upset? And then what happened was, I told them that this will have a retribution. Retribution होगा. मैं 7-8 दिन देता हूँ, तुम बताओ क्या होना चाहिए. They did not say anything. At the 8th day, they said, we don't have. Then I said, what I say will be implemented. 15 days, no TV. And they started jumping. Those days was TV. There were no phones. They're jumping as if somebody died. I said, nothing doing. And those 15 days, those days, 10, 15 years ago, I found that was the best time of our lives. So I think we need to be firm with our parents. We need to be firm with our children, and also seek the help of teachers to really correct your child. There's no family in India which is a nuclear family. All families are joint. Because aunties hai, uncles hai, tau hai, bua hai, neighbors hai, maid servants hai. They're also very effective. So when you're in trouble, seek resources around, because kids like some auntie, they listen to some uncle, and see that you democratize the problem without shaming the child, and see that you get the child back from where he was. Never give up on a difficult child. In my experience of the last 25 years, I've seen never ever give up on a child. And those kids who recover after years, they don't pass exams, they fail, they take weed, they take cash, बहुत तूफान करते हैं. But जो बच्चे recover होते हैं उनमें three variables are there. One is parents are on the same page. They don't blame each other. They don't say मैं पूरा दिन काम कर रहा हूँ तुम क्या करती हो. Number one. Number two, they continuously seek some professional help. And number three, they have that infinite belief that change will happen. I tell my children three things, sir. Life is beautiful. Exams are easy. And we will never give up come what may. I think these are the small things which are very important.
Thank you very much. I'm going to actually bring in my father-in-law, who's a senior pediatrician in Calcutta, Dr. Santosh Agrawal. And I think he wants to say a few words, Dr. Shetty, if you permit.
Of course. And when I saw your name, Rabindra, I felt you have your roots in Bengal.
That's a very astute observation. You're correct.
Okay, Rabindra, thank you very much for having me. I'm Dr. Santosh Agarwal, practicing pediatrician in Kolkata. Rabindra, you've been outstanding. You've been outstanding in conducting these webinars and helping people all around the country and abroad too. Dr. Harish, you've really, brought in a chapter which is very difficult for many parents and families to understand. But I would sum up all that you have said a lot in detail, that mental health is something that is not seen, hence it should not be ignored. And parents, children, grandparents, family need to accept if there is a problem and then ask for help. I would really put these lines as a conclusion. And thank you very much, Amit. You've been great sharing your thoughts. Thank you, Rabindra. Thank you, Dr. Harish. And thanks, Amit. It was wonderful.
Thank you very much. I mean, there are a number of other questions, Dr. Shetty and Amit, but I'm aware of the time, and we have far exceeded. I don't want
to make one point, Rabindra.
If you have the time, we want to listen.
Yeah, just one point that I'll make in case of the points around the kids and the child that you make. I think Dr. Shetty covered it beautifully. I think the point that I made before, which is making our kids learn to fail, is important. Making them discover who they are, encouraging them to experiment. And when they experiment, they'll fail. And make them feel it's okay to fail. And you have to fail in front of them to make them understand that even their parents are vulnerable, because for them, their parents are the kind of the people who can't fail, right? So you have to make them understand that even parents can fail. I think allowing them to give a why to live, which is discovering why they want to live in this world and what they want to achieve, will teach them a lot of how to live also, because their passion as well as their desire to do something would actually then allow them to live and also deal with a lot of things that come along with it. So that's very important. And the only other point that I would say add there is, we should not be putting things in kids' minds which don't make sense. Like, I still remember one of my very learned teachers many years back made a big statement, and teachers used to make big statements that you need three, if you really want to succeed in this country, you need to have one of the three I's, which is either you need to be IIT, either you need to be IS, either you need to be in IIM. If you get one out of the three, you are very good. If you get 2 out of 3, you're top of the world. If you're 3 out of 3, you probably end up in a mental asylum. Okay, so, and it was like, when I missed my first I, which is I didn't go to an IIT, I was like, first I is gone. Second I, IAS, my parents always felt I don't have the temperament to be a civil servant. So second I is gone. So you basically left with one I, which is that I had to go to an IIM. And for whatever reason, I've not gone to an IIM. I was lucky enough to get to one. It's just that it's somewhere sitting in my psyche that I would have probably drugged myself as a failure. And those are the things and stereotypes we would not, at least at this age and generation, we should not be forcing upon to the next generation, which is coming, which is our kids, etc. I think we all are coming from the 70s and the 80s and the 60s, being parented by a generation which felt and came through a difficult time in terms of economic times, and the social environment was very different versus us have been blessed with a very different social environment. I think at least we should take that forward and do it a bit more constructively for our kids.
Brilliant. Very, very well said. I don't think I've had such clarity of thoughts. I've never heard such thoughts which are so clear. So Dr. Shetty and Amit, thank you very much for sharing your time, sharing your knowledge with us. Some takeaways which I've been making a note of as we went along. Well, look after emotional hygiene like you would look after your personal hygiene. Build the emotional wealth. It is normal to have mental health issues. I would rather say it's acceptable to have it. There is no stigma attached. There is nothing to be ashamed. Discuss it openly. Life will move on. Somewhere I've understood that, okay, you need to also be helping others because everybody may not be as lucky as blessed. Invest in friendships, invest in relationships. Do not wait where needed, if needed, even perhaps maybe invade into somebody's privacy because you would probably
Save somebody's life.
Save somebody's life. I mean, it has been extremely, what a learning it has been. Thank you. Thanks to both of you. I really don't have words to thank you both, Dr. Shetty, for doing this. We have never spoken, we have never met, and I mean, Amit is like a brother, and he suggested that I do this because we are regularly in touch on cricket and other things, and he recommended and suggested your name. You didn't even bat an eyelid, as you said, which is totally amazing of you. Three of us have not even spoken once before we did this lockdown conversation, and I think it has just went off so effortlessly, beautifully. It was magical.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ravindra. And thank you for having us over. Thank you, Doctor, so much. I think it's an important topic. Even if you can have one person go to a doctor after hearing us, I think that would be kind of the objective solved, so to say. I was to be candid, I was deeply impacted when we saw this, the dear actor Sushant, who took his life. I don't know him personally. I know people who know of him and know him. It was unfortunate. And I think it just felt it can happen to any one of us, and it should not, whatever be the reasons, etc. So that was one of the reasons and triggers for me to kind of step out, because I think I can help my friends and family to the little extent I can. So thanks, Ravindra, for doing it again. I'd love to take any questions offline if anybody would want to have who you invited over for this session. And Dr. Shetty, I look forward to seeing you soon. Hopefully, COVID allows us to catch up soon. Thank you so much.
Hopefully, we can all get together for that one celebratory drink.
Yep.
I genuinely thank Amit Nayyar for really having this concern, this compassion, and a desire to find meaning in the suffering which he went through, and that I think is beautiful. And when I say meaning, it means that when you come out and share this, it is meaning in life. It really echoes to hundreds of those who are hiding or who are closeted and have not taken help for so long. It's not one, it's hundreds. I will share this video with a lot of people too. And I wish that when people watch Amit Nayyar speaking others would also want to share their experiences, so that talking about mental health will not be an issue which somebody has to elicit. It will be like taap, बुखार और ठंडी होती है तो मलेरिया होता है, sadness or interest कम होता है तो डिप्रेशन होता है. So when it comes in that parlance, I think we have made a big beginning. In this era, at this point of time, Amit, you are a mental health missionary.
Absolutely.
Maybe after 20 years from now, it will be the talk of the world and people would not mind going, but you are a mental missionary, and I genuinely thank RJ, your cricket captain, and who bowls better than he bats, for really taking time out. And he has studied, he has read a lot, and he has conceptualized the entire conversation in a manner that it has a lot of impact on normal people who would listen to this. I genuinely am grateful for inviting me, and thanks a million to both of you. Thank you.
So a video is going to be available. FB, we have streamed it live on Facebook. So the recording is there for everyone to see, for you to forward, both of you. More strength to both of you. My compliments, my salute. I don't think we could have asked anything better. This has been absolutely brilliant. And as usual, Amit, your Pinto is hitting sixes. I still remember that ball where you hit me off out of Police Gymkhana over the pavilion. Ye to aur bhi dur gaya. So well played, buddy. Very well played. And truly, JC. Truly, JC. Sir, thank you very much. Very much. Thank you, Dr. Shetty. So kind of you. Amit, so kind of you. And we'll sign off there. Thank you for listening in. We have taken more time, but it was important that we stayed on and listened. And hopefully lockdown will ease and I won't have another conversation, but if I do have, I will let you all know. Stay on the group till I send the video and then feel free to exit until we meet again. Signing off, Rabindra, Amit, and Dr. Shetty.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.